everyone. Let me see if I can get this going here and share my screen. Okay, do you guys see my screen so far?
Yep, we got it.
Okay, great.
Voice is good too. And I hope I didn't bastardize the company names too badly.
Well, don't worry about it. You got my name right. Most people call me Brigham and not Brigham, but it's actually TRIEVR is the name. So it's because basically what this product is it's a recall management software that also does field alerts, field actions, those type things. So it's a play on the dog retriever. And if you go to our website, you'll see you can actually throw the ball for the dog and the dog will pick it up for you. So anyway, as he mentioned, I've been developing systems for a long time, been working with pharmaceutical, actually Johnson & Johnson since 1991. And we started noticing that, you know, there were some places where there were gaps in things, and we started building something called TRIEVR, and which eventually evolved into this, which is what we call TRIEVR Recall, which we consider kind of it's a disruptive technology, basically, because what we want to do is put this back into your hands of that you can do it. I know a lot of recall companies are out there. They tend to work mostly on themselves, so that you actually have to prepare all the data, send it to them, hand over the control to them. They kind of can let you know how it's going, those type things. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to let you take control of that back. So we also wanted to improve the customer experience on how they would comply with any of these situations going on, whether it's a recall or a field action. So we've tried to make it as simple as possible. There's no training that they need. They receive a link to a panel or a paper letter with a link to a unique panel for them where they can then respond to the recall as you built it. And we'll get into that into a little bit. So by that, improving their experience, we really try to simplify how they respond and comply, so they don't have to go to the mailbox, they don't have to print something out, they don't have to fax something, everything. We try to do everything online for them. And so we also wanted to give the people that are managing the action, you know, a simpler way so that they can create and monitor what they need to see what's going on. How many emails have been, you know, opened, how many have accessed the panel, who has responded, who hasn't, who's requested this recredit or replacement. Those type things are out there. So one of the main things that we want to be able to do is give you the ability to do that. And then also along the line, we do a lot of due diligence collection, so data collection. So as you go through that, if you have an instruction for use update, or you just have, you know, they're gonna download something, or, you know, we keep track of every time we email them, or we send them a paper mail, or you phone them. So we keep all of that. So if you need to provide that information back to the agency to show your due diligence, you have it all in an exported data an Excel spreadsheet, so you can then take that, attach it to your reports that you send into the FDA. And then also we wanted to reduce the costs with this, because we know that as you get these call centers involved and you get them doing it, you know, there's especially the big guys, it's a rather large investment for people to get started on to be able to even get them engaged. So the way we did this, we do as a pay-as-you-go. So it's based on the number of contacts that you're reaching out to, or recipients that are going to be on there. So based on that, you pay a monthly fee based on that. So it really is relatively low cost for you to be able to do it. This software we have really dedicated to field actions, field alerts, and recalls. We know that there are recall tools out there that are embedded within your CRM tool or within your ERP system, but they're kind of hang-ons, you know, they're kind of afterthoughts. So they weren't the primary reason for the development of that software. And that's what we've done. We've created something that's we're focusing directly on these type of actions. If there's no long-term contracts, you know, once you quit using it and you turn it off and you say we're done, you're done with us as well. And we hope you'll come back. The setup is easy. It really is something you can set up in a few minutes and get going. We don't have to do system interfaces, because as we'll talk about later, we provide you with import tools that let you go to your ERP system, pull out your customers, pull out your products, link them together potentially, and upload them into the system, and then they're up and going. So you can get it up and going and get it out fast. So again, I talk about the due diligence logs and the customer friendliness of what they actually see. So I'm a technical guy. I'm not a sales guy. So if I get talking too fast or get too excited about the product, and just I guess somebody can yell at me and tell me to slow down. But basically the process flow of how this works is you start out with a draft. You can take that draft, you build it out, what you want your press release to say, what you want your letter to look like, what you want how you want it to look. And then you can send it to a team that you identify as a review team. And then your review team can make comments on it. They can approve it or disapprove it. It can come back into draft and you can update that. And then send it back out for review. Once you get it all approved, you can then release it. And what the release does is it sends everything out into the wilderness. So we try to do everything at first with an email address and communicate via email, so that we send them the link with an explanation of what this is. And we go and we have automated reminders for people who haven't completed. We send multiples. We have the ability to do mass mailings for anybody who doesn't respond, and then they're uniquely identified for a particular person. So when they come in, we know that they've complied with their action, and then you can move it into a completed state, which can lock it up, and then you'll have access to that data for up to as long as you want to keep going with the subscription. So basically what happens when you start this is that you start out and you identify your recipients and what you're going to offer them to let them to do, whether it's a credit, a replace, a field service, a document to download, something like that you can, an instruction for use that needs to go out. You can also have the ability to generate a unique URL that you can then post on your company website. If it's associated with an FDA action, you can post it on related to your recall. You can put that link in there so that you don't have to put an 800 number or an email on there that they could do. So they can just click on that link and they can self-register. Once they self-register, they'll move into the recall, and then within 15 minutes, they'll get their recall response so that they can go in and put something in there. And then you also can choose what language you want them to see that in. So everything that they deal with, if you want it in, we support 18 different languages. And so those languages can go through, and that's all they'll see. Whenever they see it, it'll be in there. It's in there. It's in a local language. As I mentioned before, you can build your recipient list and your product list. You can tie them together. So if you have capital equipment or implanted, whatever, something implanted in a person, you can actually put that in there, and link it together, so that when a physician or a hospital or whoever receives that, it would only be dealing with the customer, with the products that you would actually have distributed to them. So if it's implanted, the way it works is you can say identify a column that is the patient initials and maybe the patient date of birth, along with the serial number and the product and those type things, so that you can tie that together. Or you can, if you're just a lot product and you're sending everything out, you can just send everything out, and then they can have the list of the products that are there, where they can supply how many units they have and things like that. So it's a very simple process. We let you download the template. You just put the data in the template, upload it. We go through, make sure all the edits pass, and we'll send you an email to let you know that, yep, everything uploaded and it's ready to go. The next step is you define your teams. As you saw earlier, you have the ability to define who's going to review with you, who's a reviewer. You also have recall managers who could be part of it. You can identify a credit person, a replacement person, a field service. Those people could even be outside your company. So if we have companies a company we deal with, if you want them to replace a part, put a sticker, something like that, then all that information they could be part of that team that gets, and they can enter that information right there. So if you are working with an outside company and you want them to destroy it, but you want them to take a picture of it first, from their response panel, they can actually use their phone or an iPad, take a picture of the device, and show maybe a record of the destruction. All that stuff can be put in, attached to that recipient who actually, to that particular product customer, and then it's part of your due diligence and your records that go on from that point on. We also let you define sales teams, so that if a sales member is out there and he's in the field and you actually want them to go shake the person's hand, maybe take a replacement or help them fill out the response, all then they can do that. So they can do that from their phone. They can go in, they can find it. They're associated by region, so that they get a list of their customers, so that they can get the list of their company customers, complete it for them, and then do whatever it is they need to do to help smooth it over if there's something like that. Just so you can give that little extra bit of yeah, we're sorry all this had to happen type thing. And then the other part of it is really defining what your communications are. We let you brand everything, so when it goes out, the email goes out, it'll look like your company. So you can put your logo, the email looks like it comes from you, and from a do not respond, all that. So it really does look like the company that's using it. It's not like it's coming out of a TRIEVR recall system. You can develop your press release, the way you want your email to look, how you want your paper mail to look, so that when it goes, if they're a non-responder to electronic means, then you need to get a paper mail out there to them. You can send them a paper mail, re-interface with a print mail service. It can be in U.S. or international. It doesn't matter to us. There's some advantages on the U.S. side, because we also get into if they filled out a change of address form, those type things, that information would actually be replaced. So depending, if you send us, they live at 123 Main, but they've moved to 123 Sycamore, that change of address would then actually go on to the letter. And then we share with you as well, saying, hey, these customers have moved, or show that they moved, or the change of address. And then you can update your master list as well, and keep everything in sync. You can attach documents to their customer panel. So when they get in, they have to they download the documents. So whether it's instructions on what you want them to do, instructions for use, anything like that, you can attach. You can attach as many things as you want to attach to it. We do keep track of every time they download it, and that becomes part of your permanent record of what your interaction with this recipient. So if you're sending out an instruction for use and you want proof that they downloaded it, they can do that, and we have all that information. If they take it multiple times, we keep track of every time they download it. You can develop questions that you maybe want to respond. So you can do it at the overall recall level, which could be general questions that you may want them to know, or even at the product level. So if you did have an implantable device, or you had a list of model serial numbers that that went to this physician, they could then go and they could say, yes, this is in stock, or this is implanted, depending on it, because you could develop your own question and what the valid responses are, and that actually goes on their panel as well. And then one of the other things we added in is we let you create something called a certificate of compliance. So this certificate of compliance, I know it's big, and it's used a lot in Europe or outside the U.S. It can be used in the U.S. as well, but it's just as a statement that they can go in, they can sign it, they can put in their name, or if an assistant's filling it out for them and responding to it, we then email them that certificate that shows that they've completed it, so they can print it off for their records. And they also have record from it that they can access it from the response panel online as well. So anyway, it's a nice way to get, that they get the certificate. Yes, we updated it. We replaced the instruction for use. We did this or that. So all that information is stored right there on that certificate. So once it goes out, so once you go through that, developing it all, you can then send it out for review. People can make suggestions. They get an email to register. They can go in and register. They can then go in and access the recall. We see what everything you put together. They can either say thumbs up, thumbs down, and it can go from there, where it can go out, and you can decide whether we're ready to release this out into the wild. So once that happens and you release it, within about 15 minutes, we start sending out the email communications. We also monitor those emails, which is an important piece of data. So if you go in and look at that particular customer or that recipient, you can look through and see that, yeah, it went through, the email was processed, it was delivered, they opened the email, they clicked in and came in and looked at it. So, or probably the best thing here is this tracking the bounce list. So if let's say there's a mistype on the email, or it's no longer a valid email, that bounce list will come up, and then you can start looking and you can review those bounce lists. So you can say, oh, we need to fix this person's email address. We need to find a different person. Maybe they left the position they were in. Those type things can all happen with that bounce list. But it's nice to know what happens to your email and see what they did with it. If they don't respond to your recall or to their email, I can go in and click on it. Then we do send reminders. You define the amount of times that we remind them, and how often, how many days in between those reminders. And then we also have, as I mentioned earlier, that print mail service that can send things US or international, that you've pre-formatted the letter, it goes out to them. It has a QR code on it. So if they actually want to use their smartphone, they can scan that QR code, and it'll take them directly to that response panel, and they can fill it out on their phone. Or if they'll also have a URL that they can go to, and from that URL there's a unique number that identifies that individual recipient on this individual action, and it'll take them directly into that response window. So that email, that letter they get will be specific to them. It's addressed to them, and the QR code and the hyperlink that's on there is all directed directly to them. And as I mentioned earlier, the sales reps can be defined so that they can have access to help them respond. So if you're not getting a customer who's responding and it's a physician's office and you want to send your sales rep there, you can send your sales rep there, and then he can help them fill that out and get that action completed. So what they see on the recipient panel, right, is when they click on it, they get an email that shows this is where it is, or the paper mail with the QR code. They just click on that hyperlink and it opens up and it displays to them it starts from the top down. Again, this is branded to your company. So it looks, when they go into it, it'll be your company logo and everything looking like it's from your company. They can then read your press release to see what you need to do or what they need to do. They'll have access to download the documents. They can put in quantities if you're doing a quantity, looking for quantities that are there. How many do they have? How many do we need to replace? Those type things. They can, depending on how you did it, did you want to give them credit, a replacement, a field service? Those type things they can then respond to and have those responses available to them. They can attach photos or documents. So maybe you don't want it back, but you just want to know how many they have. They can then take especially if they're on the phone, it's very easy. All they have to do is take a photo with their phone, click on the attach, it goes to their photo library, they can then pick the photo that they want to attach back, and then that comes back to you, and then you know that they've responded. And so you can go look at all this information. They could even have documents that they want to send to you, or if you want to have them print something and sign it, attach that back, you can do that. So you have all these capabilities with them. And then the other thing that we've done is that we've allowed them to identify additional recipients. And so this is a major feature inside this, because if you're communicating with, say, a distributor who's distributed your product, they could then take that and they could go ahead and say, okay, like today, they have to manage that recall. There's additional cost to you when they do that. You've lost control of it. You're relying on them doing a quality job, all these things that are there. So with what we allow them to do is you can ask them, hey, go ahead and attach your customer list of who we did it to and send it to and attach it, and it'll upload, add them as contacts onto the recall. We'll be able to tell you if they were initiated by you or which recipient added those additional ones. But the idea being is if you send it to a hospital buying group or distributor, they could then add in all the other people, and they could then add it in, and then they all become part of the same recall. So then you have visibilities to to their recipients. You can see how they respond, and you don't have to rely on them to provide all this information back to you, because it'll be part of this as well. And then last but not least is when it is all said and done, you have and you can build these due diligence reports as you go. So if you have to start submitting things, quarterly or something like that, you can print your due diligence, which would include how many times we emailed them, how many paper mails we went, how many times we phoned them, how many times, that they downloaded the document, they did all that. All that stuff is incorporated into that report, so you have it all there. Our system is Part 11 compliant, so we have all the structure and infrastructure and such built into our software development that everything complies with Part 11. It's also PPI level databases so that we can, we store that. We can also put data. We have databases that we can put out into Europe, into Asia Pac, and everything. So if they don't want it to leave their local shores, then it can go onto a database in EMEA, let's say, and so that whole system can run out of EMEA, and it's there's no problem with PPI information on that. And I'm probably running a little ahead of schedule here, but that's kind of it. So I put this out here. Maria's our main contact, with her phone number and her email, and so we can share this document out with folks if they want to be able to see it, and we'd love to have a chance to give you a little more of a demo. It's a little much to go through in a 25 to 30 minute time slot, so that's where we went with the presentation. So I think I'll stop here. I think I should unshare and hand it back to Ben. And if anybody has any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. Any questions before Greg is done here? Questions or comments? Yeah, that was good. I think the presentation of that case study approach worked well there.
Good.
Yeah, and like Greg mentioned, if you are interested, do let my team know. We can definitely connect you with Maria, and she's always available via email and phone. So thank you again, Greg.
Sure. Thank you, guys.